welcome to the Public Global. I'm Neelu Vyas. You've been seeing that the winter session of the parliament is on, and there is a continuous pandemonium over George Soros versus Gautam Adani. Post US indictment of Gautam Adani, opposition has been asking a lot of answers from the government. They want a discussion, and they also want a JPC to be formed on this particular issue, for which the government has not agreed, and rather they have picked up another issue of Mr. George Soros, that Sonia Gandhi and the Congress party is being funded by George Soros, who's running an anti-India agenda. But apart from this, another law which the parliament today has seen is the no trust notice which has been moved against vice chairman of the Rajya Sabha, that is Jagdeep Dhankhar, and for his partisan behavior, because the opposition has been saying, and in fact they held a press conference also, the entire India Alliance, which where they said that Mr. Dhankar is not ready to listen to the voices of the opposition, and they are compelled now to move this notice regarding the no trust against the vice president of India. And on this, I'm joined by author, economist, political commentator, and advisor to the former Prime Minister VP Singh. Thank you so much, Mr. Prem Shankar Jha, for joining us on the Public Global. And my first question to you is: I'll begin with asking about the partisan behavior of Mr. Jagdeep Dhankar, and it's not like it's seen for the first time. He's been doing it for quite some time, but now the opposition says that it's compelled to move a no trust resolution against him because now the waters have flown way too much.
Well, I have been watching Mr. Jagdeep Dhankhar for quite a long time now, and I entirely endorse the opposition's view that he has been partisan in his handling of the Rajya Sabha. I also watched Hamid Ansari for 10 years, off and on, also doing exactly the same job as Mr. Dhankar is doing now. And I remember with what courtesy and what even-handedness he treated the BJP and the government at that time, Manmohan Singh's government, how even-handedly he did so. So I fully agree with the opposition's anger, or rather, I mean, what is the right word to use when you are when you feel so disempowered by the chair of the Rajya Sabha that you finally have to move a vote of no confidence against him, which is unprecedented. I think that mainly our eyes can tell us the truth.
But what would you really say? Do you see this as a new law in Parliament? And people say that, never before in the history of parliamentary democracy has a no trust motion been moved against the vice chairman of the Rajya Sabha.
Well, if you put it as a new law in parliamentary democracy, there's an ambivalence there, Neelu, that I would like to get rid of straight away. The new law implies implicitly that it is the movers of resolution who have reached a new law, even though they're saying that it is the vice chairman who led the new law. I think the real issue is desperation. Jagdeep Dhankhar was previously the governor of West Bengal, and he had a terrible record there in his relationship with Mamata Banerjee. That record was a record of slavishly doing whatever the Modi government wanted him to do from Delhi, and it got really heated and unpleasant. And I think that may have been one of the reasons why Jagdeep Dhankhar in the last election, I think it was after the 2019 election, that he was made the vice chairman of the Rajya Sabha, the vice president of India, and chairman of the Rajya Sabha. So his behavior goes back 5 years before the time that we're talking about. In the Rajya Sabha now, there is no doubt in my mind that he allows far more interventions by the benches, the government benches, to disrupt the flow of what is being said by a member of the opposition. And never is this clearer than when Rahul Gandhi is speaking. You hear jeering, you hear, disruptions, shouts, and there is very little attempt by Dhankar to stop it. I mean, he makes some motions with his hands, as I am doing now, and that's just about all. That's just not good enough. The purpose of the chairman is to not merely to indicate and ask gently, please behave in a different way, but to punish people when they don't. What else is he there for? And he's never done that. And let's face it, let's not fool ourselves. We've had 10 years of Modi. Has anybody in this government or in his party or in his larger BJP ever dared to say a single word against him, or even to question what his orders have been, however outrageous they may be? The real thing is, this is a facade of a parliament in a fascist government. And Jagdeep Dhankhar is a part of it.
But why alone Jagdeep Dhankhar? What about the conduct of Mr. Om Birla, who's the Speaker of the Lok Sabha? He has also been doing the same. And in fact, Rahul Gandhi had to go and meet because the ruling party and Lok Sabha MPs like Nishikant Dubey, Sambit Patra, they called Rahul Gandhi a traitor of the highest order. And Rahul Gandhi had to go and meet the speaker yesterday and ask him to, expunge those kind of comments. Mr. Birla said that yes, he would do, but yes, how much of it is he going to do? Everybody knows. So what would you say to the conduct of the chair, whether it is the Lok Sabha, whether it is the Rajya Sabha? Both look the same. And they look like under some pressure from the government.
Well, every single minister, every single secretary in the government of Gujarat did what Modi asked him to do without question, and then had convenient lapses of memory. Why do you think that things will be any different in Delhi? The real question is, how is it that a person with Mr. Modi's record in Gujarat has been able to become the Prime Minister of India 3 times in a row? There is something very seriously wrong with our system. And also, I think, I have to say this, that the opposition, by being disunited and talking about minor issues all the time and giving way on major issues, has in fact made life very easy for Mr. Modi to be very well, I would say, dictatorial in his behavior in Parliament as well as with his own party.
Okay, now I'll shift focus to another issue which has been there in the parliament. Post the US indictment of Gautam Adani, opposition has been seeking answers from the government, saying that there should be a discussion on this. There should be a JPC formed on this because the US Department of US Department of Justice has indicted him on various counts, and for there are bribery charges against him. Do you think that the opposition is justified in raising this issue inside Parliament? And plus, if the government is not ready to answer any of the queries of the opposition on this particular front, they have raked up another issue, and that is George Soros's funding to the Congress Party and Sonia Gandhi. Now, that has continuously become the reason for stalling the Parliament. The Parliament is not running because of this entire narrative of George Soros versus Gautam Adani.
May I take up Adani first and then George Soros afterwards? And I think that all one needs to do, in fact, what all the opposition needs to do, to see exactly why Adani needs to be targeted and the government needs to explain its relations with him, is the way in which and the reasons for which Mahua Moitra was bundled out of Parliament in 2023. She was, because of her many connections, was in a position to expose that the way that Adani was getting port contracts on the East Coast, and also I believe on the West Coast, was by first having the government say that a public sector enterprise would build that port. Then that public sector enterprise, 3 or 4 months later, would say, we don't have sufficient money, so we will keep a 49% stake and we want to sell 51% to the public. And guess who the public would be? It would be one person who would come forward straight away and say, I'll buy the 51%. It would be Mr. Adani. Now, this was a way of getting around the process of bidding, public bidding by private entities for large infrastructure projects. And I think that the fact that she was in a position to expose this on 2 projects that then being negotiated on the East Coast was the reason why she had to be bundled out in a way that made a sham of our parliament and of our ethics committee year before last. So I think that I have no doubt whatever in this that that Mr. Adani and the Modi government are hand in glove in a very large number of issues. Now, if Adani has also got carried away by his power within India to do some to break the law effectively in the US, and the US is not going to be affected by his position in India. It's going to follow its own laws. So that is a completely separate issue from and to merely raise the fact that this is actually disgracing us in the eyes of the world is not wrong. The opposition is perfectly right in being able to say, within its rights to say, to point this out and say, you must get an accounting from Adani, and you must also distance yourself for the sake of the country and its reputation. Now, when they reply, you talked about Soros. They reply, oh yes, but if Mr. Modi has connections with Adani, Mrs. Gandhi and the entire Gandhi family had connections with George Soros, is exactly the parallel to this is that when one talks about the killing of Muslims in Ahmedabad and Gujarat in 2002 and laying the blame in one form or another on the Modi government, immediately the BJP comes and says, yes, but then look at what the Congress did at Delhi with the Sikhs. Well, first of all, 2 wrongs don't make a right.
No, but Mr. Jha, BJP is saying that, this George Soros is trying to destabilize the government. They are trying to run an anti-India agenda, and Congress seems to be supporting that anti-India agenda. In fact, US Department of Justice was also targeted by the BJP spokespersons and the BJP trollers, and US Embassy had to react on it. That is very unfortunate. And they have been putting up a whole fake narrative about this whole issue, where the French media outlet had to come up with a condemnation saying that this is not right, that the ruling party of India is spreading a fake narrative that, there's a triangle of OCCRP, then you have George Soros and Rahul Gandhi is the third angle to it, what Sambit Patra exactly said in the press conference. So what would you say to a development like this?
Well, there's only one basic mantra in the BJP today for the last 11 years. It is the best form of defense is attack. Even when you have nothing to attack with, if you lie with sufficient conviction, then at least a large proportion of the people who are already predisposed toward believing you will be reinforced in their belief. Now let us take the issue of George Soros. Yes, they've been making statements that via Mr. B.K. Nehru, George Soros made a connection with the Nehru family, and that relationship is in a sense one that has enabled the Soros to influence in India's policies. Well, let me give you a few facts about Soros. Bikaner and Bikaneru. Bikaneru was the ambassador of India to the US between 1961 and 1968. George Soros's Soros Foundation was founded in 1984, 16 years after Bikaneru left the US, and he had in between he had been also the governor of Kashmir. He had fought with Mr. Gandhi on the issue of the way that whether Farooq Abdul should be removed or not, and all those issues had come up. So there was nothing to show that there was a familial you scratch my back, I scratch your back relationship between B.K. Nehru and the Gandhi family. That's one. Secondly, 16 years is a very long time of difference. Soros has had no connection with B.K. Nehru. B.K. Nehru, in fact, was governor, as I said, Kashmir. Then he came and he was living completely a retired life in Delhi before he died. So then they talk about money. The Soros Foundation was founded with I think has so far invested $32 billion. But its first investment was not anywhere near India. It was in Latin America, and it was of $90 million. Now he would have had to have connections much beyond the foundation date of 1884. Well, I don't even know whether B.K. Nehru was alive at the time that these people are talking about the connection. They've just wildly thrown out information, which they themselves haven't bothered to check. I think this is a sign of panic in the BJP, to tell you the truth.
But what would you really say to Prime Minister Modi's conduct? He's not been coming to Parliament, and especially post Haryana and Maharashtra elections, he seems to be emboldened. He thinks that now the narrative is back with the BJP. 240 seats BJP won in the Lok Sabha, and after that there were a lot of question marks. But then again, things seem to be becoming more brazen. Whether it is the communal agenda, whether it is the polarization, whether it is stealing the mandate by the election commission, what would you really say? And I'll come to the constitutional institutions also, but I wanted one reaction from you on Prime Minister Modi, and then I'll come to the stealing of the mandate, which is becoming a pattern. Yes.
What was the issue you raised just before the stealing of the mandate? You mentioned three things, and stealing of the mandate was the third. Do you remember? Because you mentioned three things, and the third was the stealing of the mandate. And you said, so can you just tell me again what you asked me?
No, I'm saying that what would you really say about Prime Minister Modi's conduct now, especially post Haryana and Maharashtra elections? Do you think that the sheen which he had lost after the Lok Sabha elections, he has regained that in any way?
They think so, and I think that yes, in eyes of common public, to those who are already devotees, this would certainly be a reinforcement of their devotion to the BJP and to Mr. Modi personally. But the fact is that these elections have raised far more questions, in people's minds about the way the elections have been taking place. And I think what they've done is to focus attention on the possibility that the government is using some methods of gerrymandering the elections, which had not been discovered till now, and which seem to now have been unearthed through the misuse of Form 7 of the elections, election commission's various forms and you already talked about that, and we talked about it before, about Sappa's findings. Now, I think that both in the light of those findings, for a large number of people, the Maharashtra elections have also become rather questionable. And I think that this Form 7 issue needs to be taken up singly. And what I find wrong with the opposition's approach is that it is always on the defensive on the issues of the Maharashtra and Haryana elections. They should have gone on the offensive. They should have said, what happened in Delhi twice? How is it that a party which got 53% of the vote in the state election goes down to 18% of the vote 2 months later? How can you explain this? Was this the first, since Delhi is small, is it possible that Form 7A was used first here in order to discredit the Kejriwal government, because the numbers were small and the amount of fiddling that needed to be done with Form 7A 7 was limited. But now you've got much better at it, and therefore it's being done much more effectively, which would mean that actually the elections of India now by electronic voting have become totally compromised. And this is the central issue that we should be raising. I think the opposition needs to go on the offensive. These motions about going against Dhankhar, etc., fine, but follow it up with concrete instances of where you feel that this government has been misusing the trust.
So, according to you, Mr. Jha, is electoral malpractice the biggest issue right now, which the opposition should be raking up to save the electoral democracy?
By far the biggest issue. By far the biggest issue. I mean, look, it is impossible, to my mind. Forget about, let's say the government was not a Kejriwal government, which actually has done huge amounts for the poor in Delhi, and nobody's doubting that. Just suppose it was an ordinary government, let us say it was the Mamta government. Can you explain how that government in the same area, within a 3-month period, has a drop in its share of the vote from 54 to 18%? Has it ever happened in the history of democracy in any country in the world? There have been sudden increases, but a sudden drop like this, a drop is far more difficult than an increase.
Right. Okay, so according to you, electoral malpractice is the most important issue which the opposition should be raking up. So we'll have to wait and watch how opposition takes this issue forward. I'll have to end it here. Thank you so much, Mr. Jha, for joining on the Public Global. Thank you very much.
Thank you.